The Ultimate Street Bike competition has moved to Avon Park Raceway in Warwickshire for round 4 of the 1990 series. The all-new Avon Park Raceway has been completely refurbished over the winter, and this is the first time that we've been able to use the track this year. The track has been completely relaid and widened and built to NHRA standards, state-of-the-art Crondeck timing equipment installed, and 7,000 grandstand seats built around the raceway. All in all, it is the best drag racing facility now available outside America. We joined the action on Sunday morning, although the competition had been running all day Saturday as well. The morning's runs would all count towards the elimination part of the race meeting, which was due to run on Sunday afternoon. Basically, all runs count towards that part of the competition, and we have a cut-off at 2:30 in the afternoon. All runs up to that point will count, and a top 16 eliminator is set up for open, nitrous and blown classes, and 4 bike eliminators are set up for the 4-stroke twin, 2-stroke twin, 2-stroke open and the new Open 750 class. Talking of Open 750s, here on the track, alongside David Knight with his 1100 Suzuki, we have Dominic Farley, the current fast man in the Open 750 class. This colourful machine in V&M livery is Kevin Hudson with his Suzuki Katana, a 1260 Suzuki motorcycle running in the nitrous class. Another front runner and someone sure to qualify into the elimination for top 16 is Gary Westerby, and this is his 1260 turbocharged Katana. And this interesting looking Yamaha is Dick Cheatham's XS650. In fact, 1009cc. And he's running alongside Ian King with his Harris Suzuki, another turbocharged machine. And here's Empty Head, Steve Burns. This is a 1260 open class Suzuki, GSXR with upside down forks and a few other bits and pieces. And there he goes wheeling down the strip. Okay, something a little different here. This is a KLR 600 with Paul Cooper on board, and he manages to wheelie the entire length of the strip. About 6 or 7 times as I remember. Now Chris Richards. Another guy looking to get into the top 16, and he won't do it like that. Problems there for Chris as he breaks a chain on the start line. He'll be working hard now to get back out and get another qualifying run in, as he's only been here on the Sunday and hasn't yet qualified. Okay, our next pair on the track, this is Mark Lodge. And this is Mark Ray with his 650 Triumph. Just showing our Ultimate Street Bike encompasses all kinds of motorcycle. And we've just had an aircraft land on the top end of the strip, and we're trying to sort things out here. Well, there apparently are, this is an airfield when we're not racing, and there apparently this plane is landed with an old set of instructions and said, oh, there's another 49 coming after me. So we're not at all amused at the present time. We've got microlights wobbling around all over the place, and one way or another it's not a very satisfactory situation. Obviously we can't run when we've got aircraft landing on the top end of the track. There appears to be little or no communication, and so we're trying to find the landowner right now to get this sorted out.
Well, microlights, we're going to get him to land on his head so we get his terminals faster.
Thanks very much there, Stu. So now we move on. This is Ken Cooper with the Cooperized Suzuki. 1500cc on nitrous. Running really well this year, it's got right down into the low nines. And another good bet for eliminations. Now over there in the far lane, that's Jared Frost with his GSXR, and he's had an eventful weekend. Melted 2 pistons, doing a bit of unofficial testing on the motorway, and has spent all night rebuilding the bike. Now another GSXR, this is Gary Overland. Another nitrous runner here. This is Andrew Kirby, and that's Rickman Kawasaki with nitrous. And now 2 lads from North London. Near lane is Dave Turner with that low 10-second Suzuki, and alongside him Paul Sterrett. Kevin Harris with his open class GSXR 1100, and alongside him John Bent with the blown Suzuki, which has been in the lead for most of Saturday and is looking good for the elimination phase of the competition. And there's Dickie Boy in his usual pose, and there's the pile of rubber that's been swept away from the track where the bikes have been burning out. So we move through here with the competitors putting in qualifying runs. We normally expect something like 2,500 runs at a 2-day event, and Avon Park is no exception to that. Absolutely pushing the bikes through as quick as we can, and all times are recorded on the computer system up in the control tower. It's a nicely painted bike. This is the Black Magic 1000 RX Kawasaki of Vic Garman. Just overstaging a bit there, but then off they go. There's another new machine being debuted here at Avon Park. This is Tony Arnold's new GSXR. His last year's machine is being run by Neil Midgley now, the 1500 Suzuki, and this GSXR is out to an enormous 1340cc, and he's already run 10.05, so he'll be pleased with that. Lots of innovations on this, like a cable operated clutch instead of the standard hydraulic one, and looking to go very quick indeed. But unfortunately on this run comes to some fairly terminal damage for this race meeting anyway. Here's another runner we've not seen before this year. This is Chris Ensor, and that's a 1385cc Suzuki 1100 EF based, and another 9-second runner. The Ultimate Street Bike competition has got so competitive now that you basically need to be running well in the 9s to be sure of qualifying into that top 16. Okay, 2 nice Z1s here, and that's Garfield Marion in the foreground. And there are the infamous sleeping policemen. These are the 3-inch height restrictions, and all the bikes must roll over them to make sure they comply with one of the few rules in Ultimate Street Bike. Another interesting machine up from Keith Parnell Motorcycles down in Cornwall, and that's Lorcan Parnell on board, and that's a ZZR 1100 with nitrous on. And I can't think of a better way of advertising a motorcycle than running it out there in Ultimate Street Bike. The far lane there is John Smale with his 1100 Suzuki. In fact, I don't think you could get two competitors from further apart than these two. There's Lorcan Parnell up from Redruth in Cornwall and John Smale all the way down from Scotland. Here's a colourful bike. This is Wayne Keeling with his Harrison Yamaha. Interesting aluminium plate frame with a 350 power valve motor in it. And there's a familiar face from one of our earlier videos. That's Bill Hunter. Doing his normal gearbox destroying act here. He seems to get through a gearbox a meeting. And at this stage I think he's still got 4 of the 5 speeds left. But he's back somewhere near his old form. He's running 9.6s and that's not bad. Particularly when you haven't got all the gears left in the gearbox. Alongside Bill on this run is Matthew Burberry. And there's the Suzuki EF of Nigel Woodhouse. And there's our promoter for this meeting, David Wilkinson of Blacktop Racing. There's an interesting little story about that quad as well, because some wicked chap dropped a thunderflash down the exhaust pipe of that the night before, and we almost had a flying promoter. And there's George Byrne all the way over from Dublin in Ireland, and that's the ex-Steve Burns Spondon Coca-Cola machine. George is one of the regular competitors when we go to Cork in May. Here we see our busy race control staff keying all the times into our computer system. Basically the computer sorts out all the times and leaderboards, and the Krondek equipment provides the times through onto the printer, and we can record everything and run race control from here. We've developed the software for this over the last 4 years and are fairly happy now with the way things operate. And that's the printout from the Krondek timing equipment. And there you can see the view from the race control cabin. Just along to the left from there you have the commentary point, and this is really the nerve centre of a race meeting at Avon Park. And that long smoky burnout through the window there is John McKean. Now moving back down onto the track, that's Kevin Hudson once more with the nitrous Suzuki. So while Kevin Hudson puts in another qualifying run, let's hear what some of our lady spectators have to say.
Yeah, it was good. My brother was racing, so it was good. Don't.
Ask you how you've enjoyed the weekend.
Yeah, it's been great. It's been fantastic. Loved it.
Any good memories of it?
Well, last night was a bit of a disappointment actually, but oh, it wasn't anything happening really. Just thought that, you know, if they were going to have like a disco or something like that. I know there was a disco down there. It wasn't much caught. Something entertaining in the evening, I think, would be nice.
Getting them grouped up in their pairs to show you that the pairs that will run will race. So how was your weekend?
All right, it's great. It's nice, John, to buy.
It's so big, but I'm going to prove a point at Enderton Air and show everybody.
I bet you say that to all the girls, Banky. So now we move on to the elimination phase, and here we have the first round of the top 16 eliminator. The far lane we have our #1 qualifier Brian Emery, and in the near side lane this is John McKean with the supercharged Suzuki. We now use the American type elimination ladder, and #1 races #16. In previous years #1 would have raced #9. So Brian Emery's qualified now down in the 9.3s, and John McKean just in the high nines. In fact, 19 bikes ran in the nines at this particular meeting, so it was still possible to run a 9 and not get into the top 16. That's some performance. Our next pair, this is Steve Morgan with his nitrous FJ1200, and alongside him Neil Midgley with the ex-Tony Arnold 1500cc open class Suzuki. Neil had qualified at 9.6 and he takes the win here. Now we have our number 2 qualifier. This is John Bent. He ran a best of 9.56 to qualify into number 2 position, and he's racing Graham Balchin, who qualified at 9.83. So turbocharged Kawasaki and turbocharged Suzuki. And the Suzuki gets the better start and holds that right the way through to the finish. Now we have the nitrous bike of Ron Russell, and he's racing the turbo and nitrous Kawasaki of Chris Easter, and Chris Easter takes the win. Now another nitrous bike, this time the 1393cc nitrous Suzuki of Paul Giddings, and he's racing the open class Suzuki of Dave Beck, now resplendent in its Wensleydale Dairies livery. Now Bill Hunter, he tells me now he's got 3 gears left, and he's racing Chris Richards. Chris Richards managed to qualify with the very last run of qualifying, having replaced the chain which we saw him braking earlier. So can Bill Hunter keep that gearbox together long enough to get in another run? And a few problems there off the line, and Chris Richards takes the win. So now we have the great big nitrous bike of Ken Cooper, 1500cc, and he's racing Jared Frost, who gets the whole shot, but Ken Cooper just pulls it back at the top end. Now our final pair in the first round, this is Jim Kernick in the far lane and Gary Westerby with the Katana in the left. And Gary makes hard work of this by going to sleep on the lights, but manages to pull through to the finish. Now we move on into the second round. And here we have Brian Emery shutting down Neil Midgley, and some problems there for Neil with the gear shift. Now we have 2 turbo bikes. Left-hand lane here is Chris Easter with the turbo and nitrous Kawasaki, and in the far lane John Bent with the turbo Suzuki. This particular Suzuki is the ex-Superbike magazine Project Black Jet machine, which used to be run by Pip Hyam and Tony Middlehurst. And John Bent takes the win. Now Chris Richards with that nicely painted 1425cc Suzuki, and he races the man in black, that's Paul Giddings. And the nitrous bike just pulls it back at the top end, and Paul Giddings takes the win. The final pair in this second round is Gary Westerby against Ken Cooper, who had that narrow victory against Jared Frost in the first round. So it's Gary Westerby on the turbocharged Katana and Ken Cooper on the nitrous injected 1500cc Suzuki. Both bikes running in the mid 9-second bracket, although Ken Cooper had been right down to 9.2 seconds earlier in the season. And in a very close race again, Ken Cooper takes the win at the top end. Now we move on to the top 16 eliminator, and the first semi-final. In the far lane we have John Bent, who qualified at number 2, and in the near lane our number 1 man, Brian Emery. And this will be a close race. And Brian just manages to hold the advantage through to the finish line. The second semi-final is Paul Giddings and Ken Cooper, So both nitrous injected and both big motors. 1500cc for Ken, 1393cc for Paul Giddings. In fact, these two runners finished the day just 1/100th of a second apart, right down in the 9.4 second bracket. Very evenly matched. And another close race. In fact, in our top 16 eliminator, 3 of the 4 semi-finalists were in the 9.4 second bracket. Okay, the crew just check track conditions before we move into the finals. And so we're back with 4-stroke twin, and this is Dick Cheetham racing Bob Cornforth. And both machines pulling little wheelies, but there's not a lot the Triton can do against Dick Cheetham's Yamaha. So now we have the 2-stroke twin final, and it's Harry Barlow, the new 2-stroke twin record holder, and he's racing against the old 2-stroke twin record holder, and this is Jeff Marshall. So 2 10-second bikes here, although Harry Barlow's performance on the day had got down as quick as 10.74. As both bikes move into the staging beams and wait for their start signal. And Jeff Marshall gets fractionally the better start, but Harry Barlow takes the win. So now open 750, and this incredible 10.3 second Suzuki of Dominic Farley, and he's racing Stu Bancroft with his 10.7 second machine. Dominic has been complaining of shifter problems all day, and so anything could happen here. Certainly Stu will be trying to cut the finest light possible to get the best advantage off the start line. And Stu Bancroft does get the best light and once again rides through those wheelies. But has he got the performance to hold off Dominic Farley? And Dominic goes past at the 8th mile stage to take the win. Now the Pepsi Suzuki of Dave Alloway in the final against the 750 H2 Kawasaki of Chris Spry. And a fairly hesitant start there from Chris Spry, and he drifts towards the centre line. But just past the 8th mile line, he catches Dave Alloway and powers past for the win. Now the top 16 final, and Paul Giddings with the nitrous machine takes on Brian Emery with the turbo and nitrous Suzuki. Brian Emery at this stage has done the fastest run of the day and has been at 9.36, and he's been oh so consistent through the eliminations, running 9.4s most of the way through. But the track conditions are deteriorating. There is rain in the air, and both of these machines have got more than enough power to completely overpower the track on a street tyre. So this really could be anybody's race. In fact, both take a fairly steady start there, and both run in the 9.6 second bracket, but Brian Emery gets to the top end first to take another Ultimate Street Bike elimination title. So that's it for Avon Park Raceway, round 4 of the series, and we were very lucky to get those finals completed when we did. Within 10 minutes it was raining heavily enough for us to have to curtail running for the day. So now the competition moves on to Santa Pod Raceway in Bedfordshire for round 5. These opening shots from Santa Pod show just how big the appeal of Ultimate Street Bike is and the range of bikes that take part. Here we have Chris Richards' open class Suzuki, 1425cc, and really prepared specifically for straight line racing. And in the other lane, the RD250LC of Julie Moore, racing in the 2-stroke twin class. We cater for all kinds of motorcycle in Ultimate Street Bike. And of course, all are welcome. Here we have the Sleeping Policeman the height restrictions that all the bikes have to go over. And here's the queue, and that was a real problem at Santa Pod, a product of our own success with almost 300 racers taking part. We talked to some of the people in the queue.
Not too bad, he leaves it to me. I have to get everything ready. He just rolls his bike in the van before we go.
Not too bad so far, but just a bit of trouble yesterday, that's all. But I think I've got it sorted out today.
Pressure £6 in the rear and about 20-25 in the front. The rear is very critical. If you have too much, you blow the tyre away, smoke it, loses your time, or if you have too little, you may could spin it off the rim.
So what about now? You say you've got that gadget in the hand there.
Yeah.
That is for...
It's for blowing the automatic shift up. It's blow it up to about 120, 150 psi, and then just use no gear lever. You just press the button and use the automatic shift. Saves quite a bit off your time if you're not so good with your foot. Some people are better with the foot, some people aren't.
It's going really well now. Yeah, I think the last run I just had was pretty good, I think.
What do you call pretty good?
I'm not sure yet. I haven't got the times.
Why do you do this?
I like going fast. I love the adrenaline. I like fast machines than big machines.
Well, there's no answer to that. Now, back on the track, this is the GPZ 900 of Matt Taylor. And here a runner in our Open 750 class. This is the FZ 750 with Ian Woodbridge on board. This is Andrew Lewis, and this is one of the more interesting bikes now running in the two-stroke twin class. In fact, a single-cylinder 500cc Honda, but a modified motocrosser. And alongside him, Gary Wilkinson with his GSXR 1100 running in the nitrous class. Here's two of the quicker runners. That's Chris Easter with the blown Kawasaki and Dave Thackeray with the open class Suzuki. This is Dave's first meeting of the year, and he gets into the 9-second bracket, and he's very pleased with that. Now another shot showing the scope of Ultimate Street Bike is Ian Reynolds with his 650 BSA lowrider, and he's having a good time in the 4-stroke twin class. Now this is a shot from the back of the control tower, and that's Bill Hunter just getting ready to make his first run of the day. As we move into the control tower, this is the view that the crew get and the commentator, and where we control the timing equipment and the computer system that runs our race control. These are really the unsung heroes of Ultimate Street Bike, because whereas everyone else can go off and have a burger when they're ready, the girls are there working all the time. Now we move back on the track with Mark Watkins, and this is a 1260 Suzuki running in the nitrous class. In the far lane, one of our two-stroke twin runners, that's Ken Wildman, who's just from just down the road in Irchester, just a couple of miles from Santa Pod. Now Dave Alloway with the RG 500. Always a contender in the two-stroke open class, and pulls a few surprises later in the day. Now this is the first run of the day from Brian Emery. He's had a few troubles earlier in the weekend with the bike, and this normally ultra reliable and successful motorcycle is starting to give a few problems. So Brian just getting things together and hoping to get back on that